Alright, how's everyone doing? This is a review of This Is Why You Dream, which is by Dr. Rahul, who's a neurosurgeon, has been for a long time, a very good writer as well actually. I think this might be the first book of his I've read, and I do question my memory sometimes because I was in a bookshop yesterday and I saw a good book and I thought, this looks interesting, maybe I should read this. Then I got home and saw it on my bookshelf, so I've already read it. Maybe I need to review or read that one again. This Is Why You Dream. I saw this a couple of purchases ago, a couple of book purchases ago, maybe 4 or 5 book purchases ago. Picked it up and I thought, this sounds interesting. Because when I was younger, I used to have really, really vivid dreams and I could control them. You know, when you're in a dream and you think, hang on, this is a dream, I'm going to say this and see what happens. I'm going to fly and it's a dream so you can fly. And I've really missed that. And also I think that if you can dream about the things that you want to do or that you want to be good at or that you can rehearse things, then maybe you're more likely to be able to do them in real life. So these ideas were in my head, and I picked up the book and read the back of it and read it, and it seemed to confirm the idea that those things are possible, and maybe reading this book could help me do them again. So that's what got me really excited. I haven't got my glasses on, but I'll try and read the back of this. Our dreams have always captivated us, even though the source of dreams is most mysterious. They are the product of an extraordinary transformation that occurs in the brain each night when we sleep. But why do we dream? How do we dream? What do dreams mean? And perhaps most importantly, do we sleep in order to dream? In this pioneering book, best-selling author and neurosurgeon Dr. Rahul delves into dreaming brain, sharing the very latest discoveries in modern neuroscience, as well as the stories from his own practice, and to show the astonishing impact that dreams have on our waking life, whether it's helping you problem solve, improve your exam scores, or even warning you of a serious disease. Dreams offer a different way of thinking and have the potential to be transformative. This Is Why You Dream offers clear and compelling advice about how to understand your dreams, become a lucid dreamer, and unleash the creative power of your dreaming brain. So it was really that last sentence, I guess, that got me. Become a lucid dreamer, without knowing what he meant by lucid dreamer. I thought, oh, that's what I used to do when I was a kid, right? Even when I was a teenager, I think. And dreams, I remember dreaming when I was a teenager, when I was a child, even when I was in my 20s, have the power to really just hit you, impact you emotionally in a way that seems evasive, if not impossible, when you're awake. So reading the back of that, I'm thinking, wow, I could become a lucid dreamer. Boom. And the book does delve into that. There's a lot to the book. It's incredibly interesting. For example, as a brain surgeon, one of the things he does is awake surgery, which I think is just when they open up your skull and they prod bits of your brain with their pen that can send a tiny electric charge through the brain. The idea of doing that is to find a part of the brain which doesn't react to the pen, so if you need to make an incision, you can make an incision there and it won't cause any damage. But one of the things that he and so many other neurosurgeons have realized is prodding a certain part of the brain leads to memories, and in some cases leads to dreams. So dreams are actually stored in the brain. They're a physical part of the brain. There are even neurons in the brain which will only respond to one concept. So that neuron will only fire, for example, if you see something to do with, pick a famous person. If you see something to do with Bruce Lee, even see the name or see a picture, that's the only time that neuron will fire. So you actually have neurons in your brain for specific physical events, physical structures in your brain, for specific memories. One of the things that he found was that by touching certain neurons, you can cause a dream to be replayed. So the awake person who's having their brain surgery will say, I'm dreaming, I'm seeing this dream, and it will play again and again and again. Dreams, where do they come from? Well, they come from the brain. They're not, the whole book pushes the idea that they come from the activity of neurons. There are specific neurons for dreaming. And throughout the ages, the Greeks, the Egyptians have thought that dreams were messages from the dead or messages from God or something like that. Amazingly, dreams can predict things, not in the way that most people seem to think, right? Oh, I dreamt about the end of the world. Oh, I dreamt that really, really hot girl that I really fancy likes me back, and so it means we're going to be together. None of that. They seem to be able to predict illnesses, and there was one study he cited in there where people who have a people who return to having nightmares, because nightmares, apart from in PTSD, tend not to happen past childhood and adolescence. So people who start having nightmares, in the data set that was studied, 97% of them went on to develop either Parkinson's or other Lewy body brain diseases. So it should be used as a diagnostic tool, I think, or as an early warning sign. And then it talks about not then, but one of the parts of the book, I can't remember the order, talks about when you're dreaming, your brain releases certain neurotransmitters, chemicals, which paralyze you basically from the eyes down. You basically can breathe and you can move your eyes. That's why REM, rapid eye movement, is a signal that people are in a deep dream state. But actually, you dream throughout. REM is just the most intense dream state that you're more likely to remember. And there's actually ways to communicate with people who are dreaming. There's a guy in Japan, Kyoto University, I can't remember his name unfortunately, but for about 2 decades he's been studying the brain waves of people who are dreaming, and has now got to the point where he can tell them what they were dreaming about by studying their brain waves. In fact, there's an algorithm that will tell you what you're dreaming about. The flip side of that, the scary bit, I guess, is that corporations like Bear, Burger King have actually started running online experiments, and they call it an experiment, but really it's an elaborate advertising campaign to make you dream about their products. The ability to scan what's going on in your head and tell you what and figure out what's being seen in your brains means that there's something like 71 companies now whose terms and conditions say you give up the right to your neural intellectual property. So you give up the right to own your brainwaves. They will try to influence them. It's crazy stuff. The reverse engineering of that is maybe you can order dreams in the future. I want to dream about this, or I want to dream about that, which goes back to the idea of being able to dream in order to, motivate or focus yourself on achieving certain things, having your life a certain way. What about the types of dreams? So this one was quite interesting. There are 5 universal types of dreams. And this is why the idea that dreams, you could argue, and he does, that dreams come from the brain, right? And they're part of evolution. All humans have them. And there are universal dream types. Everybody will have erotic dreams. And one of the interesting factors of erotic dreams is that you very, very rarely dream about your actual partner. It always involves cheating, more or less. And that involves guilt and, negative feelings afterwards. The idea that he proposes, and it seems to make sense when you look at all the data, is that dreaming about having sex with people who are not your partner is an evolutionary way of being able to procreate. Let's say your partner dies. You might end up having to have sex with someone you wouldn't necessarily want to, or wouldn't necessarily have found attractive, wouldn't necessarily have thought about. But you dreamed about it enough times that it's easier to actually do in real life. When do dreams start? Children, babies, don't really dream about much. Animals start appearing in dreams of toddlers, but not pets, maybe animals they've seen in fairy tales or something. So what we see, what surrounds us, influences how we dream. Before the 1960s, most people dreamt in black and white, apparently, because there wasn't colour TV, there wasn't colour media. There was colour in real life, so that made me question, why wouldn't people dream about the colours they saw in real life? I don't know. But apparently that's a thing. There are only black and white dreams. How to lucid dream? I guess we should talk about that. You basically start recalling your dreams. As soon as you wake up, you try and write down your dreams. There's other things you can do. An artist like Salvador Dali used to do the thing, didn't he? Where he would sit on a chair with his hand on the edge holding a set of keys. Maybe they didn't have keys back then. A heavy spoon and a metal plate on the floor. So as soon as he fell asleep, clang on the floor, he'd wake up and he'd quickly try and sketch what he'd seen in his dream. Because there is a state between sleep and dreaming. The thing about dreaming is that your executive mind, the one that makes decisions and is rational and says, oh, that can't be real, turns off. your creative brain is massively unleashed. So entering that state and then being able to recall it makes you a far more powerful creative force, I guess. There's a writer who used to do that as well. I can't remember which writer it is. It's mentioned in the book. Who would only write 500 words a day, but he wrote tons of books and he was very good. But just before he went to sleep, he'd read over what he'd written, and then usually he'd dream what to write next. It's a creative tool, right? In Parkinson's, talking about Parkinson's again, the amazing thing is that as the disease progresses, the body movements become stiff, they become jerky, they become uncertain. But the aspect of dreaming where your body is paralyzed, that stops working, which is why people often act out their dreams. People with Parkinson's move a lot at night. They might walk away from the bed, they might throw themselves from the bed. But those movements are perfectly smooth and normal and as powerful as before the onset of the disease. So maybe there's something in there that could be isolated, engineered, manipulated, whatever, to give those people back their physical ability. I don't know. It's a really fascinating book. I've kind of ranted, haven't I? I like to keep these reviews quite short. There's accounts in there as well of brain injuries. There's how dreams can be used to help you recover from bereavement, for example. It's really good. As I'm talking about now, I'm tempted to read it again. I really am. I'm going to just have a quick flick through to jog my memory and see if anything else pops up. Or dreams can actually pass down through families. So amazing. You know, within a family, there might be somebody who often used to have this dream and suddenly they realize their grandchild or their child is having the same dream. So that once again gives the impression that they might have some kind of evolutionary value. You know, if you dreamed about a certain thing and it was useful. Smells, right? So most of the senses are kind of turned off a bit when you're asleep, but smell isn't. So what they did with smokers who were trying to quit is whilst they were sleeping, they mixed the smell of cigarettes with the smell of rotten eggs. But if that smell goes to a waking smoker, it won't put them off cigarettes. But it does work when you're dreaming. Maybe because your executive mind, your conscious mind is not active. So when you're asleep, you can't just say, oh, that smells bad, but it must be because the cigarettes are mixed with something. It'll go straight to your emotional mind. You think, oh my God, that stinks. Is that a cigarette? That might put you off. So there's lots of really useful ways to dream. Can you make yourself dream about certain things? Well, apparently you can state your intention of what you want to dream about and it will happen. Going back to the smells, there's a French guy a few hundred years ago who wrote down his dreams for decades. And he was experimenting, so he was obviously a rich guy. When he was traveling to a certain city, what he'd do is he'd keep a handkerchief, spray some perfume on it, and whenever he was in that city, he'd smell it. And then he'd have his servants put that perfume on his pillow, and it would induce dreams of that place. So the book seems crazy now. Now I'm thinking about how, what I recall of it. Dreaming can help you retain information, can help you solve problems by, you work on a problem for a bit, you go to sleep for a bit, you wake up and boom, you've got the answer. So it is a tool, and I do think it's a reservoir of creativity, of ideas, of who's heard the phrase, you can't put a price on motivation? Well, if you can use your dreams to motivate yourself or to solve problems or to unleash your creative self, how amazing would that be? So that's really what got me to buy that book and read it. I'm glad I did. I'll probably give it another read. I have started trying to dream about certain things. I'm going to dream about this. Saying it to myself as I fall asleep, stating intention. There's lots of techniques that have been used and tested in laboratories to try and induce certain dreams and also to try and induce lucid dreams where you can control the dream. Like I used to when I was a child, and probably a lot of you guys did as well. You guys and girls, you people. That's about it. I'm going to stop now. Really good, 10 out of 10. Definitely recommend the book. Just, even if you're not interested in any of that, using dreams or understanding dreams, who the hell isn't? I mean, come on. It's just really well written. A really interesting read. I guess like why some people read fiction, right? Fiction readers have greater empathy than non-fiction readers, but only if they read certain types of novels which really go into relationships rather than, action sci-fi or something. That's from another book. So you learn things by reading occasionally. All right, that's all. I hope you enjoyed it.